Hey, everybody. Welcome to the I Am a Woman podcast. I'm your host, Jennifer Strickland, and I am really honored today to have some incredible people from the Duck Dynasty family. I've got Jep and Jessica Robertson on the show, and they have impacted families around the world with their incredible faith, their fun-loving personalities, and their witness. Jep is the youngest son of Duck Commander founders Phil and Kay Robertson and stars in the new Fox Nation spinoff Duck Family Treasure. Jessica has been his wife since 2011. She's noted for her dedication to their 5 children, including their adopted son, Gus. They co-authored a book about their personal journey and starred in the spinoff Jep and Jessica Growing the Dynasty. The couple also just released their first children's book, which celebrates the beauty of adoption. Hey, everybody, aren't we excited to talk about something positive today? I'm so excited. I was telling them after all the gender craziness going on in our nation, it's nice just to talk about one family devoting their life to faith, family, and community. And that's exactly what they do, and American values. So welcome, Jep and Jessica, to the show. I'm really honored to have you guys on.
Travis, we've actually been married since 2001. Just to clarify, because we have a 21-year-old. I was like, oh, people are gonna think, oh man, y'all had a kid.
Did I read the year wrong? I thought I said
You said
2001.
you said 2011. So
Oh gosh, they've been married since 2001. Let's everybody be clear about that.
no worries.
Okay, so tell me again then the ages of your children.
So our oldest is 21. Then we have a 20-year-old, an 18-year-old, a 15-year-old, and then an 8-year-old.
Oh my goodness.
And our oldest 2 girls are in college. They both are married. And actually our oldest daughter just found out she is going to have a baby. So we're going to be grandparents in February.
Oh my gosh.
It's going to be fun. It'll have a grandbaby and a 9-year-old. So,
oh wow, you are going to be you already are extremely busy. So I'm curious, I want to talk about your book and your adoption story, but I'm wondering if you can share with my listeners how you met and a little part of your testimony that led to the family that you have today.
So we actually met at my barber. She's going to say hairdresser or whatever.
Hairstylist.
She calls herself a barber, so I'm gonna
She
call her
colors
barber.
hair, so she's the hairstylist.
But so this was many years ago, and I was coming in, and she was getting out of the chair, and she was like, "Hey," and I was like, "Hey," and I thought maybe she winked at me.
No,
She denies
there's
the
no
wink.
winking.
She denies the wink. Well, then I told Connie Sue. It was funny because she'd been cutting my hair for years, and Justice too. And I was like, "Who is that gal?" She's, "Oh, her name's Jessica. She's great." And I was like, "Oh, cool. I'd like to get to know her." Funny, didn't get her number or anything. And then we ran into each other again. It was kind of all God's timing, I think. Ran into each other again. Then the last time I ran into her was at Chili's. So I always say good things about Chili's because this is where the magic started, was at Chili's. And invited her actually to a little Bible study thing we did, like college age, and we were just friends at first, but it didn't take long. Once we started dating, we were like married super quick.
Yeah, so we started dating. We met like February, started dating in June, and then got married in October.
Oh my goodness, that is quick. And how old were you, Jessica?
I was 20.
Okay.
And I was 23.
Yeah.
Oh my
So
God.
yeah, and I mean, I wouldn't always recommend, right? I wouldn't recommend that for my kids even, but God had his hand on us. And I think that's really the only reason why we've gotten where we are is because our faith was the foundation. And even through those rocky years, people always say the first year is really hard. And I'm always like, the first 7 years was really hard for us. We didn't know each other. Not only are we learning how to be with each other, but we're learning who each other is, right? And God's still growing us, right? Constantly growing and molding us to be more like him. And some of that's tougher at moments and some of it's easier moments. But obviously we love Jesus more than we loved each other. And that's really the glue that kept us together all those years.
Oh, I love that. That's incredible. So tell me about your adoption story and what led you to wanting to do that.
So it was funny. Jess said when we met way back then, she said, I want to have 5 kids. And we were like dating. And I was like, 5 kids? That's a lot of kids. I mean, it's your body. I was like, I don't know. I mean, it seems hard to me. And she was like, no, it's what I want, 5 kids. I said, okay. Well, once we had four and she couldn't have any more kids, and she was like, I think I want to adopt. And I was like, look, and I've talked to a lot of adoptive fathers. It's that have had kids too, and it came to this, and they were all most of them were kind of like me, where it's like, look, we got 4 kids, we're good. Like God has blessed us. Let's just stay with what we got. But she was like, no, I really think we should. And my brother had adopted, so we knew what it was like, and we loved Will. We kept him a lot when he was a baby, and but God changed my mind. I went on a mission trip to the Dominican Republic, and it was just the sweetest boys that our church had an orphanage there. There was like 8 boys, and I just fell in love with them. We were doing a little uh, what do you call it, like a vacation Bible school kind of thing. And I remember just like coming home, and I told Jess, I was like, I could have brought every one of them boys home to live with us. They were just so terrific, and I was like, I think I'm ready now. So that's kind of
Yeah, I mean, I felt, we could have had more kids, but physically I could not have any more. And I don't know, I just felt like the tug on my heart, and it never went away. And over those few years, it just got more and more prevalent, heavy on my heart that this was something I really desired. We had worked with a lot of, mission work for our church, and obviously lots of churches do. And I think just like being aware of really the need that's out there, and to know like, hey, we had our biological kids when we were really young. So we were still young. I was 28 when we had our fourth child. So by my early 30s, I was like, oh, I'd love to have another one. Um and then we having the opportunity. Obviously, we just our kids were gung ho about wanting to adopt all those years. So it wasn't like this, hard conversation having with the kids. And then really, you know, when the Holy Spirit spoke to Jeff too, and just gave him that, like changed his heart on if this is something our family should do, that was the right moment. And so I think as a mother, knowing what a miracle life is, is like I always said, that's the biggest miracle besides him calling me to know him, is being able to bring life into this world is just amazing. It's miraculous. And so, but seeing so many kids that are in need of just a loving home, like just some place they can call home, they can call mom and dad. And so that was just, I feel like as a woman, that's just our second nature, is to feel that calling probably a little sooner than a man would, because like he said, we were really blessed, and I was super grateful that we had 4 biological kids. But it was, maybe us doing Duck Dynasty also helped with us being exposed, because we did a lot of like charity work and inner city kids in this area. And so our eyes were open to that. And once as a Christian, your eyes are open to it. What do you do with this if you have the opportunity? Now, I don't think every Christian is called to adopt. I just think there is a lot of Christian people that we should step up to the plate when you have the opportunity, and it is a calling on your heart to do that.
That's so true. So, did you guys tell me about the adoption process? Was it easy? Was it hard? Everyone I know who has adopted, it seems like it's a very long, grueling process, and that's kind of one of the problems I have with, how easy it is to get an abortion, how difficult it is to adopt. So, what was your experience like? And did you adopt someone from the United States, or did you go out of the country?
It was a domestic adoption. And really, once we started the process, because of where we were filming the show still, and we had 4 biological kids, we decided to go through a private adoption agency. And we also chose a closed adoption, for those reasons of trying to protect, our other children as well. Um, but it was a long process, a lot longer than we thought it was going to be. Once we started, it was probably around 9.5 months of just that whole, from the first meetings and continual prayer, and then, learning how the process works and everything. We had a few failed adoptions that we really thought were going to happen. And they fell through at the last minute. And so those were heartaches that we went through, but we really knew this was where God was leading us. And at the time of Gus coming into the world, we were actually working with another birth mother. And at the end, she was due, and I think it was like 3 months she had left, but she was starting to change her mind and wanting an open adoption, which was something that I just felt like I could not maybe handle at that moment of our life. But yeah, I think that.
But there was another couple.
Yeah.
It was really great that were ready, and that's what they wanted. So
Yeah,
they
so
jumped right in, and so it was an easy transition.
Yeah.
So, but that's what's so funny is it did take a long time until Gus was born, and then it took 4 days.
Yeah.
So that part went. It would have been cool if that had been the very beginning. If that would have been like, oh man, adoption's so easy. You just baby comes out and you go up there and take them home. It's nothing to it. But not so much our story, but it made it so much better in the end.
Yeah.
And you just learn a lot about how adoption works.
Well, and just knowing God's in control. So all those other times that we thought we were going to be bringing home a baby, he already knew and had it planned, the child that we need to be mommy and dad to. And so he came into our lives. He was born on a Friday. I got a call Saturday. I went up Sunday, held him. We brought him home Monday morning. It was that quick. And so, in our book too, I mean, it goes back to scripture, us being adopted into his kingdom through Jesus. And so, biblically, adoption was a part of our world, right? And we are adopted. So we've just tried to communicate that and be very open with Gus from the get-go. Obviously he's a Black child adopted into a white family. So obviously there is a difference that, let's just go ahead and start these conversations, and it was hard at times for him because he felt different and he wanted to just what he thought be normal or be the same. But that's the beauty of the world. We're all created differently, and that's, God's design, and he doesn't make mistakes. And that was one thing we kind of beat into the minds of him and our biological kids. There's different quirks that our other biological kids have that I'm like, let me tell you, God didn't make a mistake. You are the way he designed you perfectly, just the way you are. And so there's no mistakes. And so it's just constantly reminding them of the biblical truth of God's love for us.
I love it. So tell me about Gus. What's he like?
He is a ball of energy.
My dad would say he's high strung.
Right.
He was such a easy baby. But around 2 years old, I say we started seeing he had started having sensory issues, which I never knew anything about. I was like, I don't know about sensory issues. We didn't have that with our biological kids. So that's something we had to learn and know how to parent a child with sensory issues. I think that in certain ways it's gotten a little bit better, but then he'll have another little quirk of something that he can't let go or something. So, we obviously, I think through all of that, through learning how to raise a child with sensory issues and other little quirks, God's grown us in so many ways. It wasn't always easy, through those years of, him being just trying to get him through the season of not hurting himself, touching light switches, unlocking doors. Even at a year and a half, he could unlock doors and walk outside by himself. And it was dangerous and scary for me. And we live on a pond, and I'm I just constantly in fear that he's because his brain doesn't calculate danger, right? And so those were moments, but those kind of all throughout those little years of him until he got old enough to really realize oh, that's dangerous. Don't run on the road. Don't do these things that, could be alarming.
Yeah, I understand. Our oldest son was that way. At 14 months, he was climbing out of his crib. We would find him climbing up the shelves in the pantry. Christmas morning, he found his way down to the presents and took him back to his room. We had to put a crib tent on, and he figured out how to get out of the tent. And it was just endless. He grew up to be a great linebacker, though.
Yeah.
So your family has been well known for a very long time. When did you both start noticing your personal following and popularity grow, and how did that impact you?
I mean, as far as like, because we had always done hunting shows and like DVDs about duck hunting. So my dad was really well known in like the hunting circles, and we always had cameras. Like my dad made his first like duck hunting VHS back then in like 1988, I think. I was like 10 years old, and but that's what I'm saying. I always kind of grew up around that. So people always say like all the cameras and stuff that make y'all nervous. I'm like, no, we grew up around that kind of stuff, and we were just documenting our hunts and stuff. But and it was to sell duck calls and all that. But when we started doing Duck Dynasty, things really took off. And I remember telling Jess, I was like, I went to Walmart right here in West Monroe, Louisiana. I mean, it's a pretty small town. And somebody walked up and said, "Hey man, I get a picture. I love y'all show." And I'm like, uh, okay. And we took a picture, and then 5 minutes later, somebody does it again, and I'm like, what is this? What is going on here? I'm at Walmart, and people were wanting pictures like crazy. I was like, I don't understand what's going on. It took me like an hour to get out of there. I decided I am not going to buy anything. I don't know why these people are acting crazy. And I called her and I said, I think our lives are fixing to change because I just went to Walmart. I didn't even buy anything. I just went in there and couldn't get out of the store. So it was very strange. And obviously it got more popular after that, but it was yeah, it was wild. I'm glad now, honestly, that we're kind of now people just say, "Hey man, love you guys.
Yeah.
Your show's great," or whatever. It's not as intense because man, it got kind of wild there for a hot minute.
Yeah. I mean, I think that for, even just like the platforms that we have, I mean, we know that it all comes from God. Like it's not us. We didn't grow our social media. We didn't do this. It was all him. And so it's just trying to always remember like what are we using our platform for? And because he created it, we want to give him the glory for everything. And so yeah, I feel like through those little moments of like it could be a little crazy. I mean, it was always nice. People loved the show. So it was never like, oh, people are, it was always like, wow, like I can't believe people love our family so much. And it was such an amazing, and I mean, it's so amazing to look back and like show the kids those video clips, and it's still on television. That every so often I'll put it on for Gus because he was a baby during that time, the end of that dynasty. So he had no idea. And then that's not our normal conversation, so like even us, like we moved to Texas, to Austin and lived there for 5 years. Um, and so he kind of grew up in Texas, which was far away from Duck Dynasty World. And so he really didn't know anything about like, obviously by then it had died down some, and so we kind of just lived a normal, nobody talked about it. We didn't show it on television, but one day I remember putting it on and he started freaking out like, oh my gosh, it's Peppa Phil. Peppa Phil's on TV. And so it was like this funny moment of like, oh, he has no idea anything about Duck Dynasty. And so every so often I'll put it on because he'd get the
He'll
kick out
say,
of it.
he'll say, "Dad, you were a lot skinnier back then, and your beard was black. It wasn't all gray."
Yeah.
I'm like, "Yep, buddy." Huh?
Or somebody will come up to me and say, "Oh, you look so different." And I'm like, "Well, we have been off the air like 10 years.
Yeah.
Right,
I
yeah.
have aged 10 years,
Yeah.
I've 5 children since exactly. So what have been some of the challenges that you guys have faced just being such a high profile family and having strong Christian beliefs? Have you gotten a lot of backlash, and has that been difficult for your family to sort of live in front of a lens?
I mean, what's funny is not a ton. And I mean, I know it's out there and people used to send me stuff and like, can you believe this? And I was like, look, I don't look at the negative stuff. But the cool thing is more than anything, and it happens, I would say on a weekly basis, somebody comes up and says, "Man, thank y'all for making a show. I could watch my whole family I didn't have to worry about the content being weird or bad or pushing some agenda. Y'all prayed together. I mean, it was just something good on TV. And I'm like, that made me feel good because I grew up watching like Murder She Wrote with my grandma. I love that show. It's such a good, clean show. And we watch that with our kids now because I'm like, they don't make shows like this
Yeah.
anymore. And it was good.
Yeah.
And that's why I married Jessica because my first love was Jessica Fletcher.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like we see way more good, like we hear way more of the positive than the negative. And I think early on we learned how to shut those things off. Like if somebody just said something horrific on social media, which we don't even go read all that stuff anymore, but if early on, if somebody said something horrific, or I would just delete it and block. I'm like, I'm not going to allow that into my mind. Because at first, it starts to hurt your feelings. Like, oh, they're saying this about me. They're saying this. Obviously, they don't know who we are. They want to assume. But I think that we just started looking and focusing on the positive versus the negative. I feel like probably the scariest things that we've experienced was people that would come to our house, like drive to our house or sit across the pond with cameras. That would be shocking, and that would, because obviously the privacy, like your home is where your little sanctuary, where it should be safe for your kids to play outside without you hovering right there over them. But it became like, they would run in if somebody was driving by or driving up to the house. And so that was really the only thing scary. Phil and Kay had people. We put a gate up at the end of our road, but Phil and Kay put a gate up. People would crawl over the gate and come to their house. Like there's a gate, but they would climb over, come and knock on their door. One time they came home and there was a couple sitting in their house.
Yeah.
Inside their house.
And they like drove from like Minnesota. Here's what's funny. It's to show you my parents and really how they are. Is my dad, immediately it's like gets his gun and it's kind of like goes in there and it's like kind of like, hey, what are y'all doing here? And then my mom and there's like, we just want to come meet y'all. And my mom's like, are y'all hungry? You want something to eat? My dad's like, I'm gonna protect this house. My mom's like, are you guys hungry? I mean, I'll cook you something.
Oh, that's hysterical. Well, I'm glad to hear that. It's a good word to me too right now, just because I just for the first time, have gotten a lot of flack on social media for my stance on men and women's sports. And at first it was so hard for my husband, and especially and you're right. You read those things and then you start going, they don't know who I am. These people are sitting behind no. Block, delete, delete, move on.
I mean, the problem is for people who are doing that, it's, we know Riley Gaines. She's awesome. We actually did her podcast not long ago. When you meet somebody like Riley, who has been through it, who was amazing at her sport, then a dude comes in there and wins, who was in the men's division the year before. When you meet somebody like that, you understand what they've been through, and you're just like, oh my gosh, like, and her, how it affected her family, and it's like, you want to stand up for people like that. It's like, it's not right. It's cheating.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
It's really illogical and it's crazy. And, for our next generation, we all have to take a stand and we all have to use whatever influence we have in the way that the Lord, has called us to. So I know you guys just wrote this new book. It's called Dear Valor, everybody, and it's with Brave Books. And the link is there in the comments so that you guys can see how you can get it. What led you guys to write this book, and what's your message to parents?
Yeah, here it is. You can see Dear Valor. It's cute. So Valor is a tiger, and he is adopted by lion parents. And when we were introduced to Brave Books, actually by my sister-in-law, she had read a book a year and a half before we were introduced to them. We just fell in love with what Brave Books does. Like every story, it has a different life lesson, but there are all these characters that you can follow along the whole series. So it's the Freedom Island series. So we already knew Valor was adopted. But this book actually delves into his adoption and learning that he's adopted. So there's a moment in the book that we kind of basically shared about Gus saying that he found out he's different. So Gus was really young. He was like 2.5 when he started saying, "Why am I brown and you're gray, mommy?" And he would say, "I try to wash it off, but it won't come off."
Oh,
And so, which is hard to deal with as a mom, but we got to like basically partner with Brave Books to basically share a little bit about what it's like for an adopted child. They feel different. Valor, who is a tiger, obviously is asked about like, why are you different from your mommy and daddy? And he has to own it, like, oh, I am different. He kind of has that realization and ask his parents. And she's like, they're like, obviously you have different birth parents, which we were very open from the get-go with Gus about you have different birth parents, that's why you're this color and we're this color. But there's also, the moment where he wants to reach out and find out who his parents are and contact them, which we haven't experienced with Gus yet because he's so little. But at some point he may want to, and we would support that. But it's really just a sweet story of unconditional love from a family, no matter how you enter into a family. I won't give away the end of the book so that people can go and read it themselves. But we wrote this not only for kids that are adopted, so they can kind of see a reflection, but also for kids that don't know anything about adoption, and they may know somebody who is, and they can kind of sympathize with what an adopted child may experience or feel that they would never feel. Obviously, our biological kids never thought about anything, right? I was born into this family, but for Gus, he was chosen to be in this family. And there's like that's pretty powerful because even though we didn't deserve adoption, God wanted us a part of his kingdom. So he allowed us to be adopted through Jesus, and that's powerful that there's sacrifice in there, and there's just this unconditional love, unbreakable bond, that our Father feels for us.
I love it. What would you say to a girl who was facing an unplanned pregnancy?
Oh,
I mean, I would just say, yeah. I mean, we are so proud of the moms that
yes.
that do, go through the adoption process, and it's pretty awesome. We work with there's a local place here that's super cool. That have you ever been there before? I don't know if you've been there, but that they have like a secret wall back there, so it's like unplanned pregnancies, and they can come here. It's like a resource center, and and they give them their options or whatever, and they tell them like, there is tons of people out there that would adopt these kids, and they have this awesome wall that's like probably 200 or 300 pictures of kids where the moms chose, to
Right.
life and
Yeah.
to give them up for adoption. And how thriving they are now,
Yeah.
which is just an incredible thing to see. So
I mean, yeah, I would say, every life is valuable. And from the moment you find out you're pregnant, from the next moment you hear and see the heartbeat, from the next moment you feel the child moving, and then to see actual life coming into the world, and to being able to, like I said, it is one of the biggest miracles is seeing life coming into the world and God allowing us to do that. It may be unplanned for a certain woman, but it's never unplanned for God. Nobody is getting pregnant unless God allows that to happen. And so it may not be something that's planned. It may be a bad situation. It may be something, but he has, his master plan, and we kind of have to accept that, hey, we may not understand things right along the way, but us submitting to God will allow his story, his glory to prevail. And so I would just encourage people to, if it wasn't planned, to find a support system, a support group, whether it's to keep a child or to allow another birth mommy and daddy that maybe can't have kids or want to just open their home like we did, and an opportunity to give that child the love and support and just sharing Jesus with them.
I'm so I just love hearing your story, and I just respect you guys so much. You've done such a wonderful thing, and I love that you're spreading the word about this, because the truth is that Christians can do more. Everyone can do more, but Christians specifically can really do more. Everyone knows what we're against. We're against abortion. But not a lot of people are seeing us live that out and to talk about what we are for. So thank you guys so much for that. How can my audiences get a copy of the book and follow you guys? You guys got a new show now on Fox Nation, is that right?
Season 3 is air.
Yeah.
We just launched. So and we have a few more seasons left. I
Yeah.
think. So
More seasons.
that the show is called Duck Family Treasure. It's on Fox Nation. You can actually watch some on Fox Business too, I think. And then obviously you can get Dear Valor along with all the other amazing Brave books at bravebooks.com. And you can join the Freedom Island series family.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us on the show. You guys make sure to check out Brave Books. It is the best gift that you can give, especially if you've got young children or grandchildren you're listening today, or new moms out there. We've got to put these kind of books in our kids' hands. So thank you both for coming on the show, and I wish you the very, very best. I'm excited. I'm going to tell my husband we're watching Fox Nation tonight.
Good. It's a fun show.
Sounds good. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Okay, everybody, signing off for now. Remember, I am a woman and my name means life, as we've talked about today. Thanks for joining us.